this computer. Welcome. These are the full stack part-time 17 presentations for their feature extensions. And I believe Serena is going to begin. So the screen is all yours.
Okay, I'm gonna start sharing. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm working on a project that will plan the activity travel for people who would like to travel to Belgium. And the app was created to display an ideal activity for travelers that would want to visit any city of Belgium. And they can choose the season they would like to go, and the suggested or best activity for them to do in that city in that season will appear, and its description as well. The lesson learned for my project were how to structure routes and how to create the backend. I had a couple of problems with the backend routes. I've been blocked for the most of time with it. So I have been able to work on the project since a couple of days ago. So it's front-end structure. And my wish list for, since now I have more time on work on it, will be connecting the backend with the front-end, adding more activities for each season and activity, and improving my CSS. Okay, so this is the project. These are the cities in Belgium. Everyone can choose a season. For example, it will be winter. This is, for example, visit Brussels. And as soon as we will click on the more details button, it will display the description of the activity. That in this case is called Brussels. Or if I click on another city, it will display the description of the activity, which is not an activity, but it's more this one, but it's more visiting the historic center. And this is really it.
Okay. Anything like lessons learned, or what's the thing you're most proud of, or?
I am proud I could actually display something. It's been quite rough by time-wise and creating and solving the routes problems that I had.
In the back
I
end
owe
or
it to
the?
Jess and Zoe, to be honest.
What was the more challenging, the routes in the back end or the front end?
The back end.
Okay.
For me.
Because you had work on your MVP, you had concentrated on the front end, so the back end was new for you now?
Yes.
Relatively new?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Does anyone have any questions for Serena? Okay. Thank you, Serena.
Thank you.
Who would like to go next? Olivia. I haven't memorized your names. I just see all your names on the screen. So. Okay, the screen is yours when you're ready.
Did you see my hand, or was I next?
Yes, no, I saw you raise your hand. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Hi, everybody. Okay. So I took on Andy's project called The Wizarding World. Let me put this in slideshow. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I took on Andy's project. It was a Harry Potter Wizarding World app. And this is an app that I inherited from Andy, and initially the original version, hold on, the original version of the app had a nav bar without any functioning links. And on the main page, It had an intro paragraph, the different houses with brief descriptions, and a sorting hat. And what did I add? So I added functional links on the nav bar leading to the houses, the spells, potions, and the sorting hat. And how did I do that? I used React Router. And just a little bit about the process. So first, I think everybody can agree that the first step was really to familiarize yourself with the code and its organization. That for me was definitely the most daunting part of this process. Next, I relearned React Router, and I went ahead and started making the routes. After I did that, I went in and I made separate components. So everything, the sorting hat was originally in the main app component. So I moved the sorting hat to its own component, and I hard coded the spells and potions into 2 other components. And why did I choose this feature? Well, this was on Andy's wish list, and I also wanted to experiment with React Router. And some of my main struggles, so the big one was CSS. Andy is a superstar at CSS, and I had a hard time trying to just keep track of the code. And so that was definitely a challenge. Still working on it. And another challenge was the sorting hat was originally part of the main app JSX file, like I mentioned before. And when I moved it, all of the CSS, it went bonkers, and I couldn't manage to get to the root of the problem. So you'll see in the demo, the button to the sorting hat, when it sorts you into your house, it's all wonky. And what I'm most proud of, well, working with someone else's code and building off of it. And as I mentioned before, this was definitely the most daunting part of the task. But by the end of the 2 weeks, I think I feel pretty comfortable with Andy's code. And feeling good with React Router. I feel like I have a really good understanding of it. And yeah, I feel like I know how it works. And a quick demo. Okay, so this is, sorry, I'm just gonna go back to the home. Okay, so this is Andy's app. And so I added these functional links using React Router. This is her intro paragraph that I kept in. When you click on houses, you get the houses with a brief description. The spells, there were many spells. Andy had a bunch in a JS, I think it was a JS file. I just chose 10 because I was not about to hard code. I don't know how many there were. But these are some spells and some potions and the sorting hat. And as you can see, the button is pretty weird, but it works. So yeah, thank you all. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thanks, Olivia.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Olivia?
What did you mean by hard coding the spells?
So Andy had a bunch of spells in a JS document, like the spells, the descriptions. And so I needed to like type them in or copy and paste them individually into each component.
And everyone's going to mention about looking at learning to use someone else's code. It's a really valuable skill, super valuable skill, because chances are when you get started, I'm talking to everybody, not just to Olivia, but when you get your first job, chances are you won't be writing all code from scratch. You'll be either helping to maintain some code or maybe add some new features to code. And I imagine that once you've done that and you've experienced both some good code that you've inherited and some not so good code, it may even result in you spending a bit more time on writing, you know, considering karma, or if you like, you know, writing your code well, so that you think, well, if someone else ever needs to look at this, I want to make it easier for them to understand. Good, thank you, Olivia. Who would like to go next?
I can go next if you want.
Looks like a tie between Felicia and Andy. You choose between you.
Oh, you, Andy.
Okay.
All right. Well, first of all, I need to tell you that I forgot to make the presentation. So you're going to see me explaining it. Sorry. So I took over Olivia's project. It is based on Goodreads, and it is the Good Films. It is a project where you actually search by the IMDb film ID. And the card comes up, and you can save it to your watched films and mark it as favorite. So the features that I added, in essence, were the on the mark as favorite, make sure that it is working. Well, I do have an issue that the back end and the front end, it sends only one of the choices, so I need to figure out this one, but it is still functional at the moment. Initially, I thought to do, let me just share my screen so you can actually see what I'm talking about. So here, initially I thought to do an authentication authorization with a login and sign up. However, that was not going to work because it was too much work, and I had a lot to learn when it comes to database and dig deeper into the authentication authorization. So with Anna, we decided that in essence, I just moved the search bar over here. So it is searching the films. The paragraph, when it is you're landing on the page. And with my films, this is the point where I did not do the separate sign in so you can have a user, but it is in essence the toggle user. You get the films, the watched films, and it is on a slider, horizontal slider. And here you can mark as favorite, and you see that it changed. It is one of the points that I mentioned that in essence, if you can see from over here as well, it is only sending true back to the database. It doesn't send false when it is changing. This is one of the things that I would like to work. What else? The problems that I have, it is the backend database. Olivia's code is great, and it's just that I need to dig much deeper into database for myself so I can actually understand what is going on. And I guess that would be it. That would be it.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Any questions for Andy?
Just want to say I love the whole project and especially the horizontal slider.
It took
me
me
too.
plenty
slider
of
great.
time in order to figure out that horizontal scrolling. Oh God, too much time.
So I didn't ask this to anyone else, but I'm always curious. You know, I haven't seen you through lecture phase and as you go through project phase, but I'm always curious. as time goes on, if someone develops a preference, let's say of front end or back end, or they like both equally, do you have a favorite? Andy, do you have a favorite or preference?
Yes, as you can understand, front end. It is my sweet spot.
Okay, good. Thank you, Andy. Who would like to go next? Felicia.
Good morning, everyone. Let me share my screen. Okay. Okay, so I worked on an app or a program called Easy Form, and it was Julie's previous project. And essentially what it is like an employee management system that's fully digital. So the way Julie had explained it, to give background to the new people, is that right now at her job, they're providing employees with PDF or like either PDF forms or paper applications that they're filling out manually, and then it's being copied by someone else into a digital system to process payroll. And so Julie's idea was to create something that's fully digitized. So one system where people would enter information, it would store it somewhere, and then it can be accessed later on for payroll and other management needs. And so this is kind of what Julie had worked on previously, and this is what I had to build off of. So you'll see on this side, this is kind of like an example of what employees would be provided to fill out. And then it would be entered into a system. And this is what Julie created for her MVP, which is basically everything stored in one place digitally. So Julie also had a screen that had a fully functioning form where you could enter all the information. And then once you saved it, it would create these cards for each employee. So I built off of her app, and my process was understanding the code, and that probably took me the longest, as everyone else has said. Yeah, I had a hard time understanding what, like Julie had a wish list, things that she wanted the project to kind of build on, but I still struggled to understand the starting place for it. And so I try to understand the code as best as possible. Then I looked at what Julie wanted to implement. And the way I was able to conceptualize it was just by kind of doing ideation on the front end, just to see where things would go. And as I started doing that, other things started falling into place. Like I started realizing, okay, this can go here, delete button can go here. So once I had some, some design ideation, some wireframes, I started working on my code. So these are the things that I ended up working on. And out of the things here, there's only one thing that Julie had mentioned. I wasn't able to do anything else. So I added a way to filter the employees once they're added and loaded. I added 2 views. So previously there was just the view that you had seen with the cards, an employee's image and the form information. So I added a way to view them as a list in a shortened form and as a grid. So you can see all the information or less information. I managed to work it so that both view options display the same information. So let's say if an employee is deleted off of one view, it'll also delete off of the second view. And I'll do a demo of what that looks like. And then I was also able to add a delete method so that each employee can be deleted. I did start working on an edit feature, but it's only working on the back end. I did not have time to get it working on the front end. And these are the programs that I used. I used React, which is what Julie had built the program in originally. I used Postman to test the routes on the back end, Bootstrap, mostly CSS, but some Bootstrap throughout. And my main challenges were debugging, debugging, and more debugging. I spent hours and hours and hours doing what felt like nothing because I was just trying to figure out like, issues with the code. And sometimes it turned out to be a missing slash, or sometimes it was like a lot deeper. Those are my main challenges, I would say. And time, I feel like I was spending a lot of time, like into the void. That's what it felt like, like I would spend hours and then nothing would come of it because I still couldn't figure something out. So with that, I'll say thanks and then I'll do the demo. And I really want to thank Anna and Zoe and Jess for their help. It was invaluable. Okay, I'll do the demo. Okay, so the page opens up on the current list of employees. So I was trying to conceptualize like who would use this. And so I kind of built it from an admin perspective. So an employer's manager would be looking at this page. So I have a list of employees. And you can filter it by list view, which is what we're on now, or you can filter it by grid view, where you can see all the information. If you're on the list view, you can click each employee and it'll show you all the rest of the information. And the idea is that here you would click edit and then this would switch into a form where you can edit the information. I didn't have time to build that. You can close the window, go back to the list view. The other thing I was able to do is to filter by name. So you can search and it'll show you whatever. And you can, from here, you can also click and open and it'll return to the page that you were searching on. And the last thing I was able to do is also to filter by department. So when you click to department, it'll populate from there. And what I was talking about, duplicating the information. So right now we're on the list view and filtering by department. If I go to the grid view, it's still filtering. It'll stay in that mode. And then maybe I'll just test the form since it is working across both views. So let's say we're on the list view, we want to add another employee. You would go to add employee. And you would have a form for the new employee. You assign an employee ID. So let's say before. And I tried, another issue I had was I tried to figure out which fields were required and which weren't. I was never able to quite figure that out. And I think the issue is on MySQL on the back end. I need to change something in the column indicating that it's required. Sorry. So I'm just going to fill them all out. That's all I'm trying to say, because I don't know what's required and what's not. And I don't have a URL. So once you save, it should go back to the list page, or the main page, and it'll add the new user. The users are sorted by ID. I again could not figure out how to sort a different way, but actually this makes sense to me now. So maybe it's better to keep it this way. So the new user is found on the list view. If you go to the grid view, you should also see new user in the same location, also filtered by ID. And new user is in marketing department. So if I go to marketing, I should be able to find new user there as well. There he is. And yes, I think that is what I managed to do. I will stop sharing my screen. Thank you.
Thanks, Felicia. Does anyone have any questions for Felicia?
You may have been looking into the void for a long time, but this is amazing.
Felicia, I'm scared to present your project now. I
Don't
should
worry, Julie.
for you.
Beautiful. I've seen it. I can vouch for it.
And when you talk about the time spending debugging, I mean, there's a slide, if you remember one of the problem solving strategies slides, one of the very first programmers said that at that point, it dawned on me that I'm going to be spending a majority of time debugging and less time writing new code. Okay, thank you, Felicia. Very nice. Who's next?
You
Julie.
can go next. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Am I? Can you guys see my PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, my name is Julie. I got Felicia, who just presented, which is called Meta. So to give a background, with her line of work, what they do is more of helping older individuals with chronic pain or chronic diseases. Because, you know, as you get older, you need to have more adherence to your, basically take your pills on time, not be late, remember to take it. So that was her idea when she worked on the medicational app. This was how Felicia's application initially looked like in one interface. She already done a good job with her CSS. So for me, some of the new features, I tried to do what Felicia wanted to, was creating a two distinct view, meaning to have a home view and also a medications view. And another thing was time and date, a close button for the model pop-up, you will see later, and an edit or update button for the existing medical cards. And another thing I tried to work on, I managed to work on only partially, was the authentication authorization, only on the back end. So before I go deep into the demo, I will show you the authentication app. I didn't manage to work much except the back end. I did the registration, as you could see on Postman. I managed to execute it. It will pop up a message says registration successful. And for the login, what I did was, you could see here, there is a hash password. So this is how it will pop up. Okay, so just now, Jim brought a question that, do you prefer front end or back end? You can see that I prefer back end over front end. Yeah, so some of the challenges, and also I put proud moments, is because I think that every challenge is also a proud moment. A lot of us, I think, I would say it's setting up the project. It was a struggle because we've been learning Vue and then React. And I think my project was React and I had to restudy Vue. So that was a challenge. I felt initially when I worked on React, I finally got the grasp of it. And after that, I have to work on Vue. So that was a challenge. I think I took around most of the days, actually 3-4 days, to really understand Vue. The third point is more on formatting the date and time. I thought it was a struggle. I received a lot of errors in it. Then the last one is page rendering. Basically, whenever you refresh, I wanted it to remain on the same page instead of going to, like, let's say, medications tab and back to the home tab. And my last point is, even with all the frustrations or a lot of debugging, one of the things, it was silly and Anna helped me, was I kept receiving an error prompted. And what I had to do was just npm start my whole system again. Yeah, I thought, so it's a struggle, but I would say it's fun because I learned not to do it again. Yeah, so now to my demo. This is how I just added an image from Felicia. She did a good job already on CSS. So let's say if I type Tylenol, a prescription. Once I click on the enter button, you will be prompted with a model that asks for DOE, which I'm filling up the reason, your daily frequency of this. So your medication intake time, that was what I've added. So you can choose like what time is it, what date. And what I did was also to create a close button over here. So once I hit on save and continue, I would then go on to the medications tab. And within the medications tab, you could see that these are, example, if you have, an individual, these are all the medications that they're taking. I hope not. So let's say if we have like Adderall, we can actually remove this button. And what Felicia wanted was to also have an edit button. And so this was what I did. Once you click on the edit icon, you will have like your name, dose, or anything you want to change. So let's say my prescription, I want to call it my prescription. I want to change it to Jim. And I hit on edit and save. And you can see Jim is over here. And what I did was, you can see that it remains on the same page instead of moving on to the home page. And the easiest solution actually I learned is using prevent default, which I took like, I think 3 days to figure it out. Yeah. Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Julie. So in my time at CodeUp, typically people do their projects using React because React is what CodeUp spends more time in terms of front end. But there are always, not always, but sometimes a student that says, you know, I want to learn more about Vue. And even though all the Flash lectures that you've seen so far have been using React, some people, for whatever reason, prefer Vue, and it's a challenge after having spent so much time concentrating on React as a front end to learn or to go back to Vue. And do you have a preference? You already told us what your front end back end preference was, but how about on the front end? How would you compare Vue and React?
I would say I don't have a preference, but I can say Vue, with Vue, my code looks cleaner than in React. Yes. And I thank basically Anna helped me a lot, Jess. What's that? Zoe, and also Germinal. So a quick share of my screen was Germinal, when he taught us like Vue, he tend to draw this out, parent level, child level, grandchild level. So that was how I understand Vue better, like just with this application.
Okay. Anyone else have a question for Julie?
How difficult was it to switch to Vue?
I would say 100%, because I had to rewatch all the videos. I actually spent more time watching than coding. I watched Sophia's video, I watched Anna's video, I think I watched Germinal's video as well. So you can say all 3 videos in order to change.
Okay, thank you, Julie. And I believe we have one person left. Is that right? Hi, Ikra. The screen is yours. Is your microphone on? I don't hear anybody. Ikra, are you muted?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Now it's good.
Okay,
Yes, now it's good.
okay. Sorry, so I'll start from the beginning. Yeah. I chose Serena's project to work upon because it was pretty similar to mine. Both of us had worked on the front end. The project was called Art Search. And this was basically a website which displays various paintings and artworks. And if the user likes one of them, they can click on a more details button, like a check description button, and they see a description of that particular painting. This project was built in the only in the front end. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to develop backend, and I wanted to improve the CSS because Serena also said she wants to do that. I did do the backend, but I couldn't do the CSS. I didn't have the time for it. So I'll explain the original functionality a little bit so you know what was happening before. In the original project, there was an array of objects. It was called art, and it had all the data, the pictures, everything on it. And this array was being loaded into the parent app on the front end. That's app.jsx here. So what I did was I built, using MySQL, I made a database, and I added all of the data from the array into the database. And this database was then I checked whether the backend was working and via Postman. And then in the front end, I used the use effect hook from React, and and the fetch method, and I linked the backend and the front end via that. And this was in the parent app on the front end, that is also app.jsx. And now I'll explain the demo. So first of all, I developed the backend and I checked whether it was working or not via Postman. And as you see, the array is being displayed fine. And in the front end, I connected them, and basically the functionality is the same because I didn't change anything on the front end. But the display is the same, but the functionality is different because now this description is being loaded from a database instead of an array. So the changes are all on the back end and almost nothing on the front end. And I had really hard time getting the back end and the front end to link. And this is the first time I did that. So that was the biggest challenge for me to visualize and see that happening.
So are you done?
Yeah.
Or okay. I wasn't sure. Thank you, Ikra.
You're welcome.
So I just want to say that you know, for everybody, when you can think of the time that it takes to understand someone else's code, that Ikra uses something like, well, I was only able to add the backend, but that's a huge thing for a feature extension. Okay, considering the time it takes to understand the code, the MVP code, and then to add something. Only the backend is still quite an accomplishment. It's still quite a feature. So all of you, the things that you added substantial value to the MVP that you worked on. Does anyone have any questions for Ikra? Does anyone?
I have one actually, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Ikra, since you chose to do backend actually, do you prefer that over front end, or are you still mostly a front end fan like everyone else?
I am a front end fan, definitely.
Backend fans do exist. It's not like everybody. In fact, I've had some cohorts where it was 50-50 pretty much.
I only did the backend because I wanted to understand the full stack aspect of what I do, but I definitely prefer the front end because it's more visual.
Hi, Andy. I hope I get you guys.
Some people who prefer backend like the structure. It's more structured in a way. And PT20, you'll see that as we go along. I just want to say congratulations to everyone for your projects. They're all very nice. And like I said, I always love to see the variety and the creativity in the different projects, a little bit of everything. And I like it when you try something new, something that you haven't tried before, or, you know, curious. I want to balance. I want to, maybe I did front end before, maybe I want to do back end now, or I found something interesting on the web, a package that I'm curious about. I think I'll try that. So well done, everyone. And again, the skill of studying someone else's code and being able to manage someone else's code is super valuable, and it'll come in handy in the future. Would anyone else like to make a hello, Jess? I know Jess from a while ago. Do you want to say anything, Jess, or are you good?
No, just to congratulate all the ladies. I think you all did a great job. I know we can be very hard on ourselves, but honestly, like I echo what Jim said. It's never just only. It's a lot of work to even just understand code, to even understand the concepts. And I know that it has been a rough journey for many of us, but please take a second to congratulate yourself and to really acknowledge just the work and how difficult it is. There's a reason why coding remains a very mysterious sort of like realm, especially for us ladies. You know, it's not easy. I cannot emphasize this enough. It is not easy. Even with Jim, and he can attest, it was my second time round, my second cohort, my second time joining, and even then it was still such a huge challenge. So please take a second to congratulate yourselves, and I wish you all the best for your group project phase.
Yeah, a couple of you said, oh, I have some things I still want to fix. And I was thinking to myself, well, okay, you have the weekend to think about it, but starting next Tuesday, group projects start, and maybe you're already thinking about possible group projects. I don't know. But just at the risk of repeating myself a little bit, the MVP was probably, for most or all of you, the first project you planned and you had the idea of from scratch. And I'm sure you had lots of super creative ideas, and maybe at the end of MVP and also with feature extension, you thought, well, I didn't get nearly as much done as I wanted to. That ability to plan, estimate how much time something's going to take, that comes with experience. And so naturally, the first projects you do, the MVP, feature extension, it'll probably happen again with the group project, because there will be multiple people, so you've got even more variables. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Okay, planning what's reasonable to accomplish in X amount of time. So think about what you did accomplish. Don't think about what didn't get finished from your original wish list, because it's incredibly difficult to estimate that until you have some projects under your belt. Okay. Finally, FS20, do you have any questions? So right now, FS17, sorry, PT17, PT20, we've just finished linked lists and recursion, and they're not easy. And PT17, you can probably remember that time, not so terribly long ago. Have any advice? What do you, when you look back now to that part of lecture phase, what are your thoughts? Anyone?
I think that was the part where we were like, where I was personally I felt the most discouraged. But after that, it started getting a little bit, very slightly better.
Yeah, basically to top off from Ikra's one, that's where I think most of us feel stressed and demotivated. But I guess at that time it was Germinal. He said, like, don't give up. I know a lot of people at the cohorts, like they pull through, they pass, just survive through it. And yeah, I think we've made it this far, all of us, and there's no regrets.
I know for me, it was definitely I was questioning my decision. But I would try not to get too hung up on that because the fun stuff is starting soon, and it's still challenging, but try not to get too hung up on it.
I didn't just PT20, just so you know, I didn't write the script. I didn't tell them what to say.
Is that for me, Jim?
No, it's for anybody. It's for anybody and everybody. Because okay, I've had a number of cohorts, and it's very common that in the first part there are some very discouraging moments, and then when project phase starts, or somewhere in there, the pieces start to fall into place. I think I said it before, but it bears repeating because every cohort is like that. Okay, there are very few people who are confident and feel like they've got things under control all the way through. Very few.
And I guess people might not say it, but I'll tell you what I've told FSPT17. Once you get to project phase, you're unlikely to be using linked list and recursion. Like,
Jess, don't say that. Are you
just
suggesting
FYI.
linked lists aren't fun?
I mean, of course they're fun.
I knew
They're
it.
super fun.
I knew it, Jim. No worms.
It's all been a lie.
No. Okay. Last time I'll repeat myself. PT17, well done. Give yourselves a break. Enjoy so you meet on Tuesday. There's no class on Monday. Take a rest, get some sleep, look at your computer for a little while if you want to. Yeah, and your next project starts on Tuesday. Well done, everyone. Nadia asked, she's afraid to say it, so she did it on chat. Do you guys
I didn't
draw
want to
things
interrupt
out?
you.
I'm kidding.
I only do that in our class.
What do you mean draw things out? Nadia.
Like, because it's difficult to visualize things. So do you actually like, just like I did with the linked list for the first time, I drew a worm. But like, yeah, if you guys actually draw things out that you have to get done so you understand it better.
If I had the space, I would have a big whiteboard. I don't have the space, so I use my small one.
Yeah, I feel like I made lists, and from that I kind of divided out like, okay, this needs to be done this way, this needs to be done this way. But yeah, for me, I'm able to understand things visually first. So that's how I started, which maybe is not the way to do it if you're coding backend, but if you're coding backend and front end, but that's my starting point, and then I kind of just go from there.
I would say for me, like I'm someone who don't like to write things down. I like to just go straight head on. I would say with coding, at least for me, like not to do that again. I actually made a lot of mistakes that I had to like go backwards. So one thing I learned, at least from the MVP, was actually like what Felicia did and all, is just to actually draw things out, like what you want to do. I would say that is a good step. And then to do your project, you will save time and also frustration.
Okay, once again, I'm repeating myself. Congratulations, PT17. Enjoy your weekend. And PT20, I'll see you in, let's say, 15 minutes. It's 25, let's say at 10:40. We'll meet in our normal classroom. Too bad we're not using Zoom. I miss Zoom. We're using Google Meets, and it's a nightmare. Not a nightmare. Anyway. Okay, everyone, have a good weekend. And congratulations. And
Thanks,
PT7,
Jim.
Thanks,
good luck
everyone.
with your project phase. Good luck with group projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.